of Us Part 2. But first, this Thursday, IGN or Xbox is hosting Inside Xbox event, and IGN will be streaming it. This is going to be on Thursday, May 7th at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, right here. Be sure to come and join us, see what new games Xbox will be showing off for the Series X. And actually, sort of along the same lines, today, Xbox announced its roadmap of Xbox Series X reveals throughout the year. Fittingly, they call the plan Xbox 2020. And this comes from Jarrett West, CVP of Game Marketing at Xbox. He said, starting with the May 7th episode of Inside Xbox, which you can watch here at IGN, we will be showcasing what happens next in the world of Xbox every month, which is why we're calling it Xbox 2020. These monthly moments will take place throughout the rest of the year and will be a way for us to engage, connect, and celebrate with you about what's in store for the next generation of gaming, including what's next for Xbox Series X, Xbox Game Studios, Xbox Game Pass, and Project xCloud. Every month will bring something different. Stay tuned to Xbox Wire for more details. And of course, we know the event this week is going to be showing off a lot of third-party games, including Assassin's Creed Valhalla. What do you think, you guys? How does this is this exciting to know we're going to be getting an announcement about Series X every single month for the rest of the year?
It just sounds super busy. It's cool, but it sounds so busy.
It's a little extra.
It's just, I mean, it's cool, but it's just like, okay, cool. Got this month's fixed. Now I got to wait next month. I got to wait the next month. I don't know.
And as someone who's part of our news desk, it's at least really nice to know that I can expect this every month. As much as I love surprise reveals, there can be no less panic than when I wake up in the morning. It's like, oh, hey, a Nintendo Direct Mini dropped. Let me make sure all of this has been covered when they don't announce it. So at least having this cadence is nice, especially ramping into a full new console launch.
Okay, and before we go any further, if our producer Borba is listening to this, apparently we're having the same audio issue that we had yesterday, where people in the chat are saying there is no sound. So hopefully we will get that sorted out. Okay, that's apparently fixed. Janet, how did this announcement strike you? Are you looking forward to learning more about Xbox Series X every month?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sucks that, with the state of things, we don't have E3. And normally we have that as a big rush of information. I think nothing really can replicate that level of excitement, but it's nice to have a sense of pacing and that, okay, they are going to ramp this up and slowly parse out things. And it kind of gives us a sense of where they're moving. So with each announcement, we'll kind of get an idea of what's coming next. I like it. It's very transparent. We know what to expect. We have things to look forward to. There's a way to consistently keep the conversation moving. And that's something that I'm really looking forward leading into this next gen, just to have something tangible to discuss and think about as we inevitably lead up to the price point and pre-orders.
Yeah, it is transparent, and it's kind of in contrast to the way Sony has been handling PlayStation 5 announcements. And this is something we've been talking about a lot lately on a lot of our shows and Next Gen Console Watch with Jonathan. I know. But now I don't know. It's it's just another way that Xbox is sort of controlling the dialogue about these next gen consoles. Now they've got their roadmap for the rest of the year. We know we can expect some sort of reveal every single month. Where is Sony? Does Sony need to is it time for Sony to step up their game, Jonathan?
Yeah, I actually just came off of recording this week's podcast Beyond Our Weekly PlayStation show. And we had a bit of that discussion of Sony obviously is the current generation leader in terms of sales. They've earned a lot of critical praise and sales success, but they have revealed so little. And I think their hand is really going to be forced now because we are seeing games at this third party event that Xbox is going to have. Likely some of these games, including Assassin's Creed, but probably a few others, will be on PS5 also. So Sony has to start talking about this stuff, because those games are going to be out there. We're going to be seeing games for PS5 when they're not saying anything. I think up until this point, they've been really silent. One, because as we've seen in some reports, they're just not quite sure how they're going to put out this marketing scheme, especially as COVID-19 has affected their plans. But I just think they're coming from this place of we're in the lead. We don't need to show everything. Whereas Microsoft has been really aggressive about showing stuff because they have a lot to prove. And I think they've been doing a great job, but they are coming from a place of they need to prove to people why they should buy a Series X.
Yeah. I don't. Do you think it? Do you think The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima are holding Sony back from talking more about PlayStation 5?
Yes and no. They haven't really done a good job.
I woke up in the morning about 9:30. Hacks in the buggy standing in line. Jets and gamers standing around. Take a little seat at your burial. I began to think we do that time. I grabbed my hand and I made up a plan just a little too slow. They overtook me and Joe.
We don't even know what gameplay really looks like for that game. We have such a small idea of what that game could be. So I do think their attention is definitely split in a way that it's not for Microsoft because those are such marquee games. But I think they could be doing better in that regard also.
Yeah, I guess there is a big difference because these are two huge exclusives that Sony still has coming for their current gen platform, and Microsoft doesn't have any more, any big exclusive games coming for Xbox One. So they have a clear runway to start talking about Series X. But Janet and Stella, what do you think about Sony's relative silence on the PlayStation 5 compared to how vocal and transparent Xbox has been about Series X?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line between mystery building anticipation and frustration. I think we've definitely passed into the frustration point, at least for me as a consumer and as someone that obviously loves video games. That's how I feel. Like I'm waiting for something to latch onto and be excited about for PS5. I think the controller was a really good step in that direction, but the more whenever Microsoft does something, like I'm left thinking, okay, what's the Sony equivalent and when will we see that? And Microsoft has done so many things versus like what Sony's done, which isn't a whole lot. It makes that like gap just gets wider and wider, and it becomes like more and more frustrating not to get anything from the Sony side. As Jonathan and we've kind of discussed in the show before, like obviously we know that Microsoft needs to get out there and hustle a lot more than Sony does. That's just a fact, right? PS4 was extremely successful in a way that the Xbox One had like a much rockier launch. But just because Microsoft needs to work harder doesn't mean that like Sony can totally just hang back. And whether or not this impacts their bottom line, honestly, is irrelevant to me in terms of me feeling like annoyed. Because at the end of the day, like it doesn't really affect us in a general sense whether or not like Sony does well, unless it like would lead to them not making consoles anymore or something crazy. So what I care more about is like being informed and having something to get excited about. Obviously, yes, they do have exclusives, which has always been their thing, and Microsoft doesn't. But like Microsoft knows that, and they lean into other things like Game Pass, like the ease of the hardware, like their smart delivery feature. Like they're leaning into other things that are appealing. And it is frustrating that Sony isn't showing the few things they have that are appealing, which are exclusives, which are, these other facets. So, yeah.
Sure. Stella, do you lean more towards Xbox or PlayStation?
I really don't care.
Sure.
Wow.
That's also valid.
Because listen, if I like a game enough, I'll get the console and I'll play it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. No, I'm just kidding.
So many great exclusives, and that's fantastic. Xbox also has some really good games on it, like Gears 5. But honestly, I don't feel very attached to either console right now, just because we haven't heard very much on it. And yeah, like Janet said, there's going to be this divide the longer they kind of stay silent. So that's how I feel. I don't really feel a pull in either direction right now, just because I'm just like, I really need more information, but we don't really have access to all that right now. So
yeah, you do a lot of PC gaming, is that right?
yes.
So do you feel like you're covered on Xbox since you can play every Xbox game on PC?
Kind of, actually. Yeah. The Game Pass has been a great move for Microsoft, honestly, because they've upped their sales. Now they can play with people on Xbox too with certain games, which is actually really great. And Sony's always been kind of a stickler about crossplay. So
yeah. Okay. Well, also at this Xbox event this week on Thursday, along with some third-party games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they're going to be showing off games that will use this smart delivery feature that Janet just mentioned. And this is a new feature that will allow you to buy a game once, either for Xbox One or Series X, and it will download the optimized version for that platform. And then should you switch consoles, upgrade consoles, you still have the game. You don't have to buy it a second time. So I think this is a pretty cool feature, and we know that Xbox Game Studios, Ubisoft, and CD Projekt Red have committed to using smart delivery for their releases. But should we be worried that apparently this isn't going to, like, not every game is going to use this feature? Only certain publishers that opt into it? Is that how you understand it?
That seems to be the case as we see it right now. That could obviously change, and there could be something blanket that's announced. We haven't seen PlayStation confirm any sort of system akin to this at all for the PS5.
Right.
So that raises the big question. Yeah, like the reality of it is, I wish every company could, but we are dealing with companies trying to make money here, and as much of a bummer as that is, they're probably not always going to make the best call for the consumer, which I don't necessarily think is the best thing. Like, obviously, I would love to know I could buy something on my Xbox One and then have it whenever I get a Series X if I can't get one now or 2 years from now. But I think that we're seeing a little bit of the reality of the business here, that just not every company can get on board with this.
Do you think this is a feature that, like, is it going to look bad if the PlayStation 5 doesn't have anything like this? Is it going to look bad for Sony? I mean,
as a marketing point, yeah, absolutely. Like, to not be able to say, hey, don't worry about this, but I don't know if they care about that right now. Like, we know so little about how they're going to tell us why the PS5 is worth buying, which is bizarre, but like, we just have no concept of what that's going to look like. So I like, as a one-to-one comparison, it's not great, but we'll see what else they think they're offering.
I think this is so new and kind of unprecedented. Like, I know when Phil Spencer came by and was on a couple of our shows, and he mentioned that like this is kind of a scary concept to put out there in terms of like the developer side and like the publisher side, because of the business element and the potential maybe of like leaving money on the table, for lack of a better term.
no, sure.
I think for that reason, it's actually, when this first was announced, I feel like all of us were like, wow, like, is Sony going to do this? Like, this is such a big deal. But now that like more and more time has passed, I've kind of cooled off on that. I feel like this is a really cool feature, and maybe it'll eventually be normalized. But the reality is most platforms and publishers and et cetera, like, usually this doesn't happen anyway. So I feel like it's a really cool perk, kind of like when stuff is on Game Pass at launch, but it's not something that like I feel is a requirement because it's such a new idea. Like, I'm a Nintendo fan. Like, I'm like, what? Buying a game once? I don't know her, right? Like, I bought Mario Brothers 3 82 times, and I will buy it an 83rd time. Like, let's go. I'm down all the time to get to do that. That's like, and I think a lot of consumers are wired to kind of have that loop. So I feel like this is nice, the more people that are in on it, but I'm not seeing it as like, oh, this studio is shiesty for not going into this like smart delivery feature.
Yeah, that's a good point about Nintendo, man. I can't imagine any universe where Nintendo offers some sort of smart delivery.
I will buy Super Mario Sunshine so fast.
You're gonna buy it this year.
I would pay $80 to play that game. There is no amount that I would not pay.
Don't give Miyamoto any ideas.
Yeah.
So as part of their Xbox 2020, their roadmap this year, the next event in June is going to be, that'll be part of IGN's Summer of Gaming Showcase. Then the July event is going to focus on what's coming from Microsoft's owned studios, so first-party games. They also reaffirmed that their plan is still to launch the console this holiday season, despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And then finally, the announcements today mentioned that they're expanding Project xCloud into new countries and on new devices. And later this year, Project xCloud and Xbox Game Pass will come together, enabling you and your friends to play together in more ways. So again, I just think it's really interesting, the two starkly different approaches that Xbox and PlayStation are taking to revealing information about their next-gen consoles. Everyone will continue waiting for Sony to sort of be ready to share more about PlayStation 5. As of right now, Xbox is really dominating the conversation, but PlayStation 4 is far and away more popular than the Xbox One. So I think those legions of fans are just waiting for Sony to say something. But speaking about more Sony news, we know that a new trailer for The Last of Us Part 2 is coming tomorrow. It's going to arrive at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. There was a teaser today that didn't give away very much, although we heard Ellie say, I have to finish it. And then what sounds like Joel says there's a cost. So new trailer coming for Last of Us Part 2 tomorrow. But what I wanted to ask you guys, and in particular, Jonathan, is The Last of Us Part 2 about to have a Last Jedi moment? And what I mean by that is that there seems to be, at least part of the audience has turned against this game. Are you sensing that? Is this just me?
Well, I was going to say, you're talking to someone who really likes The Last Jedi. So I mean,
well, sure.
If it has a Last Jedi moment, great.
Well,
no, I mean,
you.
Yeah, I know. But hey, then Rise of Skywalker came, and then everyone suddenly was like, The Last Jedi's not so bad. interestingly, we're dealing with a very strange case with The Last of Us Part 2 because right now, and I won't speak any of them, though people have tweeted at them at me aplenty. Major spoiler moments about the game have been leaked due to gameplay that leaked online. We out there in the internet on JPEGs, in comments, probably in comments here, you can find people talking about what happens in parts, specifically, we believe, toward the end of The Last of Us Part 2. That said, like, if you told me parts of what happened in the first Last of Us, I probably wouldn't think they were that interesting or good to begin with. But The Last of Us's best moments are really driven by the fact that you are experiencing that story and being forced to experience that entire story. Like, the context of all those moments really matters. And so I've seen a lot of people say sort of like, well, you know, I heard those spoilers, save $60. I think the way Naughty Dog usually crafts their games, like, I'm not going to go buy it, the way Naughty Dog crafts their games is usually the full context matters. And they've talked about this game as really being their most expansive game, their most complex and intricate on a story level. And I think it's worth debating whether or not a story is good when you have the full story. Regardless of the medium, I don't think a single moment is how you can define whether or not a story is good. You can talk about why a moment makes a story bad or not, but I think there's so much else we haven't seen about this game that we need to see to fully understand. And it may be terrible. It may be a very bad story. Who knows? Like, this is
probably not though.
I was gonna say
you never know.
I was gonna say you're not going to give it a review based on just what you've heard, like just these segments.
Ready to slap a score on it
for that? I'm reviewing frame by frame all of the leaked images on my Snapchat. You can check out those reviews. But no, it's this weird thing of I just think I get the natural reaction because this game involves characters that people love and are tied to one of the most beloved, praised video game stories, at least of the modern era, if not of all time. And so I get a reticence to want to maybe hear things you don't know you want to, like, you don't want to hear, or you don't agree with the story going that way. But this is, at the end of the day, the story they're trying to tell. And I want to see the full context of that. But will we see blowback? Probably. I don't think this is going to be a game that satisfies everyone by a long shot. And I think they know that going in. I guess, like, I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's just different from the first game. I think the first game did satisfy everyone. A 10 out of 10 from IGN. We've surveyed IGN audience before when they've said that's like their favorite game of all time. The sequel has been in development for years and years. It was at one point, every PlayStation gamer's most anticipated new game. But now, when you write an article about it, there's people in the comments that don't seem to be. They seem to have turned against the game or whatever. So I just think it's interesting, the sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, that game also didn't come with the expectations, though, that the sequel has.
That's true.
Like, a lot of us,
that's true.
The Last of Us, we all wanted more Uncharted. Like, everyone loved the Uncharted franchise, and The Last of Us was like, oh, they're going away and they're going darker, and oh, another zombie game. Like, that was, there was definitely an initial reaction of like, oh, here's another zombie game. And of course we all played it, and the vast majority of people loved it. I do think there are definitely things you can criticize of the gameplay balance to story, but for the most part, it was a pretty well-loved game. But because of that, this new sequel is saddled with a lot of expectations and a lot of care and feelings that the fandom brings with them. Rightly so, because obviously they love this game and they love this franchise. I do think, and it's hard to say without diving into what some of the spoilers are, I do think some of the negative sentiment is coming from reasons that aren't really connected to the quality of the story. And I don't want to say too more than that. And I don't think those complaints really are in any way justified, but that is a much more complex topic that I think we'd have to get into spoilers about. But,
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I guess, but justified or not, I just wonder how significant is that group of people? Like, is it enough people to it's going to make it matter to how many copies that game sells?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's just so massive. Like, it's The Last of Us. There's nothing like, I mean, I don't say there's nothing bigger because, like, I'd have to really think about that. Like, I don't know, like, what franchise would supersede that. But in general, like, the idea of Last of Us 2, I mean, there's been negativity around the sequel, like, since it was kind of announced, because, like, a lot of people, I'll just say it, like, they don't like the fact that Ellie's gay, like, and that like bothers them. And they're like, I don't like this. This isn't like, I just want to stab someone. I'm like, you can stab and still be gay. Like it's not, they're not like, they don't need to, they're not separate things. So that's the first thing. Like I don't know any of the spoilers, so I won't address any of that. But you know, you'll always have a sector of the audience that doesn't like that stuff, that gets annoyed when they see, you know, representation of like other groups. Like that's just how it is. But I think from a less negative standpoint, or less dark standpoint, Last of Us 2, there's a lot of pressure. Like you have to follow up a classic. Like, even if you do it well, like, can it ever be as good? And then, you know, there are some people, they even ask, like, do we really need this part 2? What is this part 2 going to offer that, like I finished The Last of Us, like the first one, only like a month ago. And when it ended, like, I am looking forward now to the next one because I love that game. But at the same time, I'm like, I would have loved to just stay here forever. I don't think I need another one. So I'm going to kind of go into Last of Us Part 2 wondering, like, what are you doing that was worth bringing this back up? Because you could have left it as is, and it's not like it landed in a cliffhanger or anything like that. Like it had a hard stop, and then the credits rolled, and you just sat there, and you just like, and then you just like felt everything. And if you're lucky, you had someone to talk to about it because it was just such an impactful ending. I think too, to address the whole idea of like, oh, I saved $60, like I don't want to, you know, play it anymore. I mean, you could say the same thing for like, then just watch a Let's Play of every game and don't buy games anymore. Like I think that's a ridiculous sentiment to have because it's not the same. And that's not to discount people that like watching Let's Plays. Like there are kids that are only watch Five Nights at Freddy's Let's Play and that's like their favorite game. Like I'm not going to discount that, but it is not the same experience.
I will.
Yeah, some people will. Like I won't. I personally won't, but like it is. I will say that it is not the same experience as playing a game. Like it's just a different experience. For me also, I had The Last of Us 1 spoiled. Like I knew the ending a long time ago because it got spoiled for me like from like a TED Talk randomly. But when I actually got to the ending, yeah, it was like on Game Narrative and they're like, and then at the end of The Last of Us, and I was like, why did you say this? Like, I don't understand.
I was really hoping it was a TED Talk completely unrelated to games.
Just something else.
Yeah. It just comes
like, by the way, like just to be a troll. But yeah, and I thought like, okay, well, this is going to hit as hard because I know the ending. But what I didn't know is how they would write the ending, like the specific lines. And hearing like the epilogue specifically just put it over the edge for me narratively. Like I didn't think the plot was that like moving. I'm like, oh, this big surprise, you know. But like the way they wrote it, I was like, damn, this was really good. And that's really what hit me. And also, you know, in the context, like there are so many gameplay moments that I remember so vividly. So yeah, I think this, I mean, I guess it could have a Last Jedi moment in the sense that the story could be terrible and people could get really mad at that. But like, I don't think it's really going to be, I don't think it's going to be a full 180 from the fan group because I think overall the gameplay is going to be generally kind of the same, but like with better mechanics likely. So, you know, at the end of the day, like that's the main part of the game. It's not, people say it's a narrative game, but it really isn't. Like it's an action game that has a good story. Like it's not Life is Strange. It's just has a good story.
Sure. Stella, what's your read in all this?
I mean, the people who are saying, oh, I saved $60, I think they're really just cheating themselves, right? Because there's still that whole experience they can go through. There's still, if they really like the gameplay of the first game, maybe they can experience this in like a new polished version in The Last of Us 2. Also, I really do trust the writing of Naughty Dog, even if not everyone agrees with the direction they decide to go. I think that's still their decision. That's okay. You can dislike it. That's fine. But reserve your judgments until the full thing is released because that's not really being fair to yourself or the developers who put in so much time in building this piece of work for you. And I think there's just something to be said about exploring the world of The Last of Us because it's just gorgeous. And I feel like it just kind of gives a lot of people like a different sort of escape and view on life. So
yeah, that's a good point. Well, in any case, there'll be a new trailer for The Last of Us Part 2. It's tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific. We'll definitely be talking a lot about that on this show tomorrow. Let's move on to Cyberpunk 2077. Lots of news today because Stella knows all about it. Stella knows all about it. Don't worry, we'll make someone else say the words today. We have its rating from the Australian Classification Board, which is Australia's ESRB. Where in Australia it's got an adults only R18 plus classification, which I assume is different than our adults only classification, which would mean it wouldn't be able to be sold in any retailer and no platform holder would allow it to be sold on there. So Jonathan, do you know anything about the difference between ESRB and the Australian Classification Board?
Not 100%, so I don't want to speak too off the cuff, but I do definitely know that some classifications that sound like using the words adults only for the ESRB is different from other classifications.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I would assume, given CDPR's history with making M-rated games, they'll know where they have to toe the line to get this an M rating versus an AO rating when it comes to selling on the North American side.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was an AO rating. So when I was reading the story, I was like, oh my God, okay. When I was reading what constitutes it, I was like, yeah, no, that's definitely a step above. But I didn't even know there was a step above.
It's a rating that's never used because the game couldn't be sold anywhere.
Yeah.
There's only a few very rare instances in history where the AO rating has been used. But anyway, an M-rated game from the ESRB is you have to be 17 years old to buy it, I believe, right? And then for in Australia, adults only R is 18 plus, so it's not that different, I don't think. Basically, it's rated M in Australia. We can just assume that. But then, of course, the rating comes with a bunch of descriptors of why it received this rating.
Oh my God!
What?
I want to hear Damon say this because.
Well, I mean, this is just the type of thing
PG.
you're gonna see in the game, and this isn't me explain. This is professionals in Australia.
I know Damon's personal take.
So Cyberpunk 2077 features first-person perspective sex scenes. Of course, we know the game is in first person, and that's actually
that sounds horrifying.
What?
Like that's why VR porn doesn't work to a mass market. Like it's disturbing looking because it's like the perspective's all off. So
yeah,
I think that's going to be a horrible scene.
Well, we're gonna see. They're non-interactive. They feature nudity ranging from breast and buttock to full frontal female
Single
nudity.
buttock.
Just one cheek.
Yeah, only just one cheek.
Is it one cheek or just half of
Just
two
one
cheeks?
cheek.
Like
no mention is made of frontal male nudity. Unfortunately, sex
not.
can be initiated with male or female NPC prostitutes or with other consensual characters.
Could you
The
imagine?
report also details. What was that?
You said it's non-interactive, but I was just thinking, like, what if there's a quick time event?
shout out to God of War, the original series. Like you had to triangle to sleep with so many like different mythical beings.
Oh my God!
And then if you did it wrong, they got mad at you. I thought that was kind of a funny addition. I don't know if any of you guys messed up the quick time events. No judgment, sometimes we all get nervous, right?
It's true. The report also details a quest in which the player visits a sex shop. Mannequins are posed inside glass cabinets in various sexual positions. I'll skip that next part. Did you read that?
Waiting for you to read it.
Wait, okay, including a simulation of rear entry sex.
Why do they have to write it that way? Like it's so much weirder.
Know. It's so much worse when they put it that way. And when I was reading this for the IGN now, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, this is the worst story. This is the most Nazi for work story I've read for work.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't help you out with that one earlier today.
Uh-huh.
But wait, there's more. Other smaller cabinets contain a variety of sex toys or devices, including a number of oversized phallic-shaped dildos. And I don't know, I guess I just assumed all dildos are phallic-shaped. So I don't know what other shapes would be very useful. But that's
oh
just,
my God,
David! But let's get on to the violence.
God.
That's enough of the sexy stuff.
I mean,
my
I will
God.
say,
How
nothing
oversized
more-
are these dildos that they said they were oversized? Like, are they
True.
comically large or does someone feel some type of way? Like,
Oversized.
what I'm wondering.
I mean, Saints Row the Third had a giant purple dildo bat. Like,
Yep, it did. And that was oversized.
yeah, that
So-
was comically.
Companies marketing too. Or like, I know, well, actually, I'm not going to tell this story. Never mind. Continue on.
Okay. Well, I know it's getting a little steamy in here, so let's get to the violent stuff. Gunfire wounds cause generous blood mists and sprays and may also result in the severing of limbs and, in some cases, decapitations. Corpses may also be eviscerated if the player uses an automatic weapon with large mists of blood rising and, in some cases, stylized injury detail, including bone and entrails being visible. So that's it. That's why it's rated adults only in Australia.
This better be completely immersive. Like, I don't know. I really hope this is as immersive as it says it is, because otherwise I don't know what else it's going to be.
It's worth noting the ESRB has not rated it yet. I checked earlier today, but when the ESRB does, it will come with its own sort of descriptions of this content. So
So more and
we'll
more
have
We can have you read those.
we'll have to compare and contrast.
It'll be rated E10, I'm sure.
It's like which one writes better erotic fiction, the Australian
my God.
Classification Board or the ESRB? We're gonna find out. Oh
Oh.
man, Jonathan got so uncomfortable. He had to bounce
I
out.
did.
He just left.
What?
You know, if you wanted to move on to a different story, you could have just said so. You didn't have to just roll call.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
I
being
mean,
subtle. Yeah.
this seems like what I expected from the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't show. I mean, I don't think they show nudity in the trailer. Oh, I guess maybe I'm thinking of like the behind closed door, like things we've seen. It's all blended together into one like marketing, like vision for me. I can't really separate what comes from what. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the vibe that they were like going for. So
Yeah.
it seems
Yeah.
like a lot of this stuff too comes from like one specific. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how the Australian classification board goes about doing their ratings. Like I know for ESRB, like from watching Danny O'Dwyer's documentary on how the ESRB rates its games and like inside the ESRB, which I recommend people check out. It was no clip. It's really good. And they talked about how like basically they submit a few instances of like the things that they think will kind of get them the rating. So it's like this is just a very specific slice of like, oh, I guess they just wanted a really detailed sex shop, and obviously they put sexual things in sex shop. So like I don't think it necessarily means that like the whole game's gonna be like incredibly raunchy, but clearly they are going for some like, you know, they're towing that line a little bit. They seem very into the fact that they're towing that line. I hope it's well done is the thing. I'm a little bit worried that Cyberpunk 2077 will be kind of a little bit too much of a caricature of itself. More so than like everyone says GTA is like, you know, it's like a satire of American culture. But I wonder if Cyberpunk is gonna go to some weird places that maybe we're like, I wish you didn't do this, but okay.
Like if they're trying to push the envelope.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. It feels a little bit too much like, oh, we're hardcore for the sake of being hardcore, like a sex version of how Doom Eternal is, where it's like, oh, it's just crazy, and there's
We don't want that kind of hardcore.
You know, like I get that some people get really excited about that kind of thing, but like, I'm not personally interested in a first-person perspective sex scene. I don't think it's going to do anything narratively for me or gameplay-wise. So
Yeah,
I kind of feel like, why is it in there?
So Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect does really great work with like romance and doing sex scenes that aren't necessarily like explicit. And the thing is, Deus Ex, I don't really like the games just because I can't really get through the gameplay style. But Deus Ex, I forget which one. I think it was Human Revolution. They did a really good job of establishing the cyberpunk world, and especially through like NPC dialogue, where I think one time you could hack into a computer and it showed like this guy talking to his wife who was like, oh, you told me to get these augments, it would help us in the bedroom, but you know, you left me. And I'm just like, okay, that's like a subtle way to like build up the world that people are doing this stuff, like that this is a natural way of life, instead of just being like, hey, here's a dildo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
a
like
great point.
An
I feel
oversized
like there's
dildo.
just a more like, yeah, exactly. I feel like there's a more graceful way to do it, but I understand that they're also trying to push boundaries. So it's just like, how much are they going to do this without it being like too much?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Of course, there's a lot of like sex and nudity in The Witcher 3.
True.
But the violence here sounds like it's like on another level from The Witcher 3. And maybe that's just a combination of you're fighting human enemies instead of a bunch of monsters, and you also have guns instead of swords, right?
Well, and the swords pop out of your arms in this game.
That's true. That's true. You also have that. One of the IGN commenter, JM Rev, mentions, he says, my biggest problem with this game is the first person feel. I really don't like it for such a massive open world game. This game would have been phenomenal in third person. I'm replaying The Witcher 3 now and loving it. And it is a bit of an odd choice for a game that lets you, you know, choose your character and customize your character to then put the camera in your head instead of away, so you can actually.
I mean, Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the disappointing things of jumping into the Outer Worlds. I spent like an hour designing my character, and then it was like, all right, first person. Oh well.
You have to. There's so many sliders. Like you have to do it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Okay.
But
well,
yeah,
anyway,
I mean, I think the like third. Oh, sorry.
No, I just say we could probably move on from Cyberpunk, unless Stella wants to repeat any of the descriptions again.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't really care that it's not in third person. When I played Fallout 4, I switched on and off, and I kind of stayed in first person a lot because I like to be my character. I liked being in that immersive environment. I don't know. I guess it's just a personal preference, and I totally
Yeah.
understand if that's a deal breaker. But I feel like that shouldn't stop you from at least experiencing the world. So.
Yeah. Well, CD Projekt Red also announced there's a Cyberpunk 2077 news broadcast coming in June, and that will be part of IGN's Summer of Gaming. So this is all these companies are really starting to talk about their plans for showing off their games and their next-gen consoles for the rest of the year. So lots of exciting stuff coming up right now. Let's move on to Skate 4, and probably not the news everyone was hoping to hear about Skate 4. But EA reportedly does not want to make Skate 4, but they do want to make a mobile version of Skate 3. And this comes from skateboarding legend Jason Dill. He was reportedly called by EA to discuss a mobile version of Skate 3, and he has some very frank comments here from our article, which is pretty great. He said, I got a call from the EA people about 10 months ago. So this is even last year. And they said, hey, we want to talk about the Skate games. This woman emailed me and she said, basically, hey, Jason, we want to do a mobile version of Skate 3. And I wrote back and said, what else? She wrote back, no, that's it. So I wrote back, look, no big deal. No one wants your stupid mobile version of Skate 3. Make Skate effing 4 already.
Oh my God.
So is he going to do the mobile version? Because that email was a little
It
unclear.
doesn't sound like it. So EA wrote back saying they weren't looking to pursue Skate 4, to which Dill replied, well, have a lot of luck on Need for Speed 29. I won't be in your stupid mobile game.
Oh my God.
So that clears it up.
Wow.
It does clear it up. I did wonder why EA was emailing this guy in the first place. I assume he's in Skate 3, and do they need his permission to use his likeness again in a mobile version?
I haven't played Skate, so I can't say anything, but maybe
I
they
don't
just wanted to grab him and have like his name in there, but I don't know. His response is pretty callous though.
It's pretty good.
I like to think that he signed it like really like just like the same canned thing, like best, or like, sincerely say well, like, just like within this like really aggressive. Yeah. That's pretty intense. I mean, I feel like this does echo a lot of the sentiment around mobile games. Like, unfortunately, and I really wish there was less stigma around mobile games, because there are a lot of fantastic mobile games, but the reality is there's also a lot of bad ones. And unfortunately, a lot of the bad ones tend to be from like these big, like the ones that get visible are from like these big IPs attached to them. Yes, Mario Kart Tour, that's you. That game was bad, and it starts to make people think, oh, see, mobile games suck, because they look at like the most popular in-your-face ones that happen to also not be great. So yeah, I'm not optimistic for a Skate 3 mobile game, like how that would translate. But yeah, this was pretty rough. But I think that is how a lot of people feel about mobile games. Like they have that, and especially when it's something like this, where it's like, oh, I want Skate 4, but you gave me Skate 3 mobile. It's like an extra sting to people. And he kind of said what people were thinking. Like, I don't know. I respect that, I guess, even though he was kind of a jerk about it. But
it's also kind of just indicative of why people feel the way they do about EA. Because people love the Skate games. I think people would love to have another Skate game, but like to port Skate 3 to mobile instead of making a sequel, it's just kind of like, what? I don't understand. And I don't want to like bag too much on EA. I think they put out a lot of great games, like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Titanfall and all that stuff. But it's just like, this just seems like such an obvious thing to do. I don't know. But Jonathan, this pro skater, Jason Dill, also said in this interview that there's a new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater coming this year that he knows of. That lines up with a lot of rumors we've heard about this game. Isn't that right?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of rumors over the last, I'd say 6 months to a year, of a new Tony Hawk being in the works. We haven't gotten anything official from Activision. Of course, we don't really know too many games Activision's working on at the moment. So
yeah,
we have seen them in the past say they do want to lean into their established franchises for sure. So I wouldn't be shocked if there's some sort of Tony Hawk stuff going on, but they haven't told us anything. Of course, we reached out for comment before on these rumors, but they haven't commented on anything.
Janet or Stella, either of you, would a new Tony Hawk game be exciting for you?
Exciting is kind of a strong word. I feel like. Go ahead, Stella.
I was just gonna say, of all the skating games I'm interested in, I'm probably interested in Skatebird because it looks really cute.
Skatebird, okay.
Skateboard, yeah, right? Is it out yet? It's not out yet, right?
Not yet.
It's
It
an
looks
alpha, but, like,
adorable.
yeah.
Yeah, that is. I am excited for Skateboard. That was no hesitation. Tony Hawk, like a new entry. I have a bad feeling that it wouldn't be as good as like, was it Pro Skater 3 is the one that everyone's like is the best thing ever? Is that 2? Pro
I
Skater
think
2.
more 2, but 3 was also
Yeah.
very, very good.
Yeah,
That kind of those kind of earlier iterations. You know, everyone has fond memories of that, but I just feel like I doubt that they could capture that kind of magic in a continuation of the series. And if they're doing like maybe a remaster or a remake, that could be cool, but it's also just kind of like a nostalgia play. And I'm so sick of remakes and remasters that I'm sort of like lukewarm on it. You know, I'm just kind of like, it could be cool, but it's not something that I'm really amped about.
Have you finished Final Fantasy VII Remake?
I did. My runtime was 70 hours.
Wow.
Christ.
And I think some of those hours were just like idle time having the game open because I wrote the walkthrough portion just for the side quests of the game, which are the worst parts of the game. So yeah, I finished it. I did finish it.
And
I'm done with it now. It's a good game. I think I can't deny that, but I don't like it at all.
okay, cool.
The story is pretty bad. If you haven't played Final Fantasy before, you will not know what's going on. What else? The side quests are some of the worst side quests I've played in any video game. They're painfully bad, but the rewards can be good. Which check our page on the rewards, IGN wikis. But like some of the rewards are really compelling and that makes you want to do them, but they're painful to do. They're just painfully awful and highly repetitive. So I would say also, I think the game overstayed its welcome. I got kind of tired of it, and maybe it's because I was trying to rush through it. I'll cop to that. But I got pretty tired of playing it around chapter, I would say 15 is when I was like, I'm good for this to be done.
Oh
and then they're like, what if 18? They're like, what if we did 16, 17, and 18? And what if we put like 12 boss battles across these chapters for no reason? So it felt poorly paced. Yeah, it was, I have a lot of negatives to say about it.
I don't think you listed any positives.
The combat is excellent. The way you get to like manage materia and strategize is really fun. I think that the game handles difficulty really well, both in having lots of options for the player and also the ability to, when you pull up your menu, you kind of pause time. So it gives you time to rotate your camera, think, okay, where do I want to go? So it allows you to have a lot of time to think. And I think that also makes it easier. And if you die, you maintain your XP, which is really great. And there's like no level scaling either to the enemies. So I think there's like, I love how approachable the combat is, but also how satisfying it is to pull off. The chocobo summons are the best parts of the game. And I think like the combat simulation, like the VR combat like simulator area, like if you play the game, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if not, it's like a kind of a boss area where you can get more summons. I think those battles are super compelling. The combat absolutely holds this game together because a lot of the other elements do not work. Yeah, that's my take.
Cool. Well, producer Borba, I am going to leapfrog over this Call of Duty story because there's another EA story that I want to just follow up onto here. Today, EA revealed its Q4 2020 financial results and announced plans to release 14 games between now and March of 2021. The company also announced it will bring even more titles to Nintendo Switch, the console the company has not been supporting very strongly thus far. So the list of games coming before March 2021 include annual sports games like FIFA and Madden, as well as previously announced games like Command & Conquer Remastered, which is coming June 5th. There'll be some mobile games, and of course, Burnout Paradise is coming to Switch. And Burnout Paradise on Switch is a strange case because EA has said, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, EA has said they haven't been supporting Switch because they don't think Switch players want their games there. They don't think they're going to sell. Is that right?
That's the gist of it. They feel like that hasn't been a destination for people to want their games on. Yeah. So
they've got Burnout Paradise, which is a last gen game, which was ported to other current gen consoles 2 years ago, and it's $50, which is $10 more than it cost 2 years ago.
What?
Another,
Are you serious?
So I can just see what's going to happen. Not very many people are going to buy it.
No.
Not many people are going to buy it, and then EA is going to be like, "See, no one wants to buy our games on Switch."
What? Like we should have expected it. Why won't they get it?
Yeah,
that's actually kind of ridiculous. I didn't think that it was. I didn't realize. So, what was the launch price originally?
Well, it was the last gen game. I assume it was $60. You know, when it came for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in whatever year. But it's $50 today on Switch.
I'm surprised it's
I don't know.
$10 less than I thought it would be because their Switch games are just always like, you
They're
know,
always
and
so expensive.
it's so expensive. Like, Stella, I know you recently got a Switch, but I don't know if you felt the pain of like having to pay for these really old games that are the same price.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I'll just play this on my PC. Damn, like
Yeah.
I got a Switch for the leisure of it, but now I'm just like, I will just play the exclusives there, and then I'll save everything else for a more affordable console. So that
Yeah.
kind of sucks.
Leisure is expensive. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah, tell me about it. Now you can't even get a Switch anywhere. So
Yeah, it's true. Jonathan, any
Uh,
idea what are these other games they're going to bring to Switch?
Hey, do you like mobile games? They'll probably come to Switch.
Okay.
No, I mean
Skate 3's
probably a
coming to
lot
Switch.
of ports.
Skate 3.
You never know. I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they think
Yeah.
the right move is with Skate if they're going for a mobile game. An interesting game that I think might come to Switch and other platforms is Plants vs Zombies 3, which has currently been in a weird like soft launch period on just Android phones in some countries. That seems like a prime candidate to probably come to Switch given how popular the original PVZs were.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, like probably sports games are a safe bet. A lot of the indie games that have come out, like they put Unraveled and Unraveled 2 on, I believe, last year. We'll probably
Yeah,
see.
I think those are already there.
We'll probably see any of the other lingering games that haven't come to Switch from their indie portfolio probably be ported as well.
A Way Out, Sea of Solitude.
Stuff like that.
oh, you think
yeah.
A Way Out is coming out to
That's just one of their indie games that hasn't been ported yet.
okay.
Yeah, those would be my guesses just because of the like relative ease of transition in terms of like while a lot of those indie studios are working on follow-up games, EA could easily hire a porting studio to help with that sort of aspect. It's not something that they need to take away from those other developers. So we'll see. Yeah, I think it's going to be an amalgam of games. I don't think we're going to see the next cutting edge EA games also launching on Switch probably at the same time.
Yeah, they're in a strange position because I think EA's best and most popular games like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Apex Legends they couldn't bring those to Switch,
No.
so it leaves you wondering.
Well, Overwatch is on Switch.
Overwatch is on Switch, you're right.
But there's a lot
Yeah.
of things on Switch that it's like, it is technically on Switch. That is a fact. But like the performance, like people were like, Witcher 3 got on there. I'm like, yeah, but like
At what cost?
yeah, it's kind of like when you finish like a race, but you like threw up at the end and also like you're injured now. It's like, it's there. It technically is there. Yeah, Jonathan, I would love to see their indie portfolio on there. I think that makes a lot of sense. I've also noticed that Nintendo tends to like, especially when it's like ports or stuff they're bringing over that isn't just Nintendo based, stuff that emphasizes the co-op functionality, because that's one of these Switch's like big draws, like how easy it is to do co-op. You don't even need an extra controller. You can turn the Joy-Con sideways. Like as soon as I played Unravel 2, I'm like, oh, this is perfect for Switch. It's even red and blue. It's like the Joy-Con. The marketing kind of does itself. So I think A Way Out would be yeah, it'd be great because that's a mandatory co-op game. It is the easiest, like that's the easiest console for it to be played on, because all the other ones you kind of have to like figure out, your situation with pulling off the co-op. Yeah, that's actually one of my like favorite games of like the last decade. Not one of the best games, but one of my favorite ones of the last decade. It was super fun, very memorable. Gameplay was great. Story was even better. Yeah, that would be a great port over to Switch.
Mayam Dane from YouTube chat says Dark Souls 3 on Switch. I would actually break my console. Like I would probably break it. Yeah,
crack it in half.
That'd be an interesting one to bring on. But
Dark
yeah,
Souls Remastered is on there.
Yeah. We'll see what Bandai wants to do. But EA also announced at E3 last year at EA Play 3 new indie games, and they didn't really give a release for them. But if any of those are projected in the next year, they might just do simultaneous Switch launches.
Wait, did they reveal like titles for those games? I don't remember.
So yeah, there was. I have the article pulled up. Lost in Random, which is from the people who made Faye, their past game. Rust Heart, which is a sci-fi action role-playing game with a co-op focus, and a new game from the A Way Out studio, Hazelight.
Okay.
They didn't announce the name, but yeah, all 3 of those.
A Way In.
Ooh.
Cyberpunk, no?
Oh my god, Janet!
it's a little bit there's a mystery about what all these other 14 games that they've have coming before March 2021, including what their big game for this fall is going to be. Isn't that right? Because we know Battlefield is not going to be till next year. Battlefront 2 has been sunsetted. I don't know. Is there a chance to have? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say there was a weird leak of a Star Wars game on the PSN a month or two ago.
That's what I was going to say.
If that
Really?
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, Project Maverick, I believe, was the name that we saw there. So likely, if something is appearing on the PSN, it's maybe not due for an imminent launch, but a reasonably like time-framed launch from now. So probably in the next year, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you have more information on that, or no?
Not at the moment, no.
We'll talk after the show.
Dang it.
Let's move on to sort of EA's counterpart in the video game publishing world, to Activision Blizzard. Apparently, they've reassured everyone today that the next premium Call of Duty is still scheduled for a 2020 release. Of course, employees and game developers at Activision Blizzard have transitioned to working from home, like a lot of us. But that hasn't stopped them from confirming the next premium Call of Duty is on track to release later this year. Is their use of the word premium strange to you? Is it just because there's Call of Duty Mobile, which is free to play, and I guess Warzone is also free to play?
And
is that
Warzone,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I think they're making the distinction between those games. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Call of Duty has been performing very, very well in recent months, thanks to Modern Warfare and Warzone. Activision confirmed the sell-through, so copies sold for Modern Warfare, is the highest in the franchise months after launch. Do you understand that to be it's the best-selling Call of Duty ever, Jonathan? Is that
in the same time period, I guess, or like the fastest selling Call of Duty?
Okay.
Yeah. It's a weirdly phrased thing they are saying, probably to please shareholders, but it probably means it is sort of like the fastest selling Call of Duty. It sold the most in this time frame, something like that.
It's doing well. It's a hit.
Yeah.
And Warzone has hit 60 million players. Modern Warfare is the best-selling game of 2020, even though it was released in 2019, at least through the end of March. I don't know. We'll see what we should be getting April NPD numbers soon, shouldn't we, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, we're probably due next week, I would say.
Next week, okay.
Yeah. At the latest. Yeah. Modern
Warfare is also the best-selling game for the 12 months ending March 2020. So for going back to March 2019, it's the best-selling game. And then in the comments on this article, Game Meister writes, "Cue the people who will say, 'Who cares?' about a series that makes the #1 best-selling game every year, as long as Rockstar doesn't release anything." Stella, have you been playing much Call of Duty recently?
Not recently. I've been more into Apex. I did try playing it again after, I think, one of its updates. But it's not like greatly optimized for PC, so I haven't been playing it a lot until they roll out more fixes for it. But I mean, players are very active on it. I barely have to wait for any game matches. The only thing I will have to say is that the update downloads are huge, so that's kind of a minus for me.
Huge, like 100 gigs huge?
Yeah, like it takes like 2 hours for me to download, and I have decent internet, so that kind of sucks. But I do like the crossplay feature a lot. I know a lot of people are asking to get that taken out, but you can always opt out if you want. But it's always nice for me to be able to play with friends on console. So
for sure.
I wonder if more of these kind of like, it's really interesting now because of everything going on with like COVID. A lot of people are coming out and being like, "Hey, everything's good. Like it's all good. It's good. It's fine." And I'm like, I believe you. I don't really. I'm concerned. Everyone's kind of on edge. So it'll be interesting to see, like, as the year progresses and as our situation stays the same, like how many more people are going to be coming out with these like updates that are kind of things we knew, but also things we don't really know due to all the delays kind of coming out. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of changed how we go about like marketing things because of like what's going on.
Yeah, but like think about the numbers I just threw out there. Like it would probably be devastating for Activision Blizzard if a new Call of Duty didn't come out this year.
Right. But that I would say like it's not so much that it's still scheduled, but also just like that the timing is still sort of on track. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's also a scary thought too that like this needs to happen. And I think a lot of companies are in that position to feel, especially with next gen about to hit. It's sort of like, everyone's gunning for that holiday 2020, but like we have no idea what holiday 2020 looks like in terms of how the state of the world is and how available things are. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see like what the state of the world is when this actually does like drop and all these other things come out.
Mm-hmm. You have some healthy skepticism. But if it indeed, as Activision says, is on track to come out this year, Jonathan, the rumor is that this will be Black Ops 5, correct?
Yeah, as far as we know, from all the rumors and speculation and reporting we've seen so far, it seems to be like most likely Black Ops will be what they revisit. And excuse me, during a console launch, it makes sense to have such a recognizable name. We were doing research back when the last Black Ops came out, and I think the term Black Ops was trending higher than Call of Duty in terms of what people recognized more at that time.
Yeah.
So
is the prospect of Black Ops 5 exciting to you, Stella?
I guess. I mean,
can
for me,
tell.
it's just like another game. You know, it's another FPS game that I definitely will play. But it's
Okay.
just like, okay, there's one every year. I would be curious to see if they do keep up with Warzone, because that's still a live game for them, and handling that is pretty difficult because they'll be managing the release of a AAA title and also a live game process. So it's like, how are they going to manage that, especially since they're all working from home? So that's what I'm more curious about, like if the quality is going to suffer on either of those projects.
Sure. All right. With just a few minutes left in our show today, we're just about running out of time. Let's take a look back at today in video game history. Games that were released today, May 5th, in video game history. In 2017, Prey was released, which I always heard good things about, but I haven't played. Have any of you guys played that one?
No, I need to play it. It's like on my. Oh, you played it, Stella?
It's the one where you can change into like objects, right?
Yeah,
Like,
mimics.
No,
Yeah.
screw that. No, I hate that game. So it's so scary. I'm really bad at horror games, and that's definitely a.
No, you are ruining the anniversary of Prey's release right now.
We're trying to celebrate Prey.
That means it's
the
good. If I don't
3-year
like it,
anniversary.
it's good. But the thing is, you can't trust anything in that game. Like you gotta whack every
Yeah.
chair, every coffee cup.
I think that like
Yeah.
Prey exists in that world of like games that aren't technically horror games but are still extremely scary. Like yesterday I started playing BioShock because I never really played it. Like I played maybe like an hour or so. It's horrifying. It's so scary.
Yeah.
I was so
Very
scared the
atmospheric.
whole time.
Yeah.
Hey, Janet, what are you playing BioShock on?
PS3, because I was too cheap to buy it on PS4 and I didn't download it for free. So
You didn't want to wait for the Nintendo Switch version?
I think I'm okay.
You think you're
I have
okay?
a feeling it's gonna look. I think playing on the PS3 is the same as if I waited for the Switch version of it.
That's actually probably true. On May 5th, 2009, the original Plants vs. Zombies was released.
Like the original on mobile,
I think it was on PC first.
PC.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I actually really like the FPS one. I think it's super cute. It's just really fun to
Garden
like mess around
Warfare,
in.
yeah.
Yes, it's so cute.
I know. I love the original Plants vs. Zombies. I think I actually reviewed that for IGN.
Really?
So
That's
I'll hold it,
awesome.
yeah.
You should go back and review it again.
Time for a re-review. Plants vs. Zombies. In 1998, a game I'm gonna go out on the limb to say I'm the only one here who's played a PlayStation 1 shooter called Einhander was released. It was a Square game before Square was Square Enix, and it's amazing, super good. But that same day also
Fun
was.
fact,
Go ahead.
part of the dev team for Einhander helped make the gummy ship portion of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
they're
very
still
specific.
around, still making. Well, I did interviews with them, and they mentioned that.
That's
and
how you do.
It was very interesting. Yeah.
Also, Damon, you gave Plants vs. Zombies a 9.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which I stand by. That game is amazing. But the same day in 1998, the original Hot Shots Golf was released, which a series I'm still a fan of to this day. Anybody get down with Hot Shots Golf?
I don't know what that is.
I do not
Well,
know.
it's like
How
arcade
dare
golf,
you.
but it's the team that would go on to make. It's the team that would go on to make Mario Golf.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. It's great stuff. Jonathan, are you talking? I can't tell if you're talking.
Could you not hear me? I think I'm like 5
You're, like,
frames a
lagging
second.
away,
and
yeah.
I
Yep.
don't know if anyone can hear me. Yeah.
Well, you made it. Almost
Uh-huh.
made it with 30 seconds to go.
Hot Shots Golf is great. Bye.
Hot Shots Golf is great.
Uh,
What are you gonna say, Stella?
Oh, Damon, Fire Native in Twitch chat had a question. Did IGN ever say when in June Summer of Gaming starts?
We have not listed an exact date yet. It's all still coming together. It's coming in hot. But stay tuned. I think we'll have that announcement very soon.
Awesome.
Finally, with just a few seconds to go, in 1992, this day, the Wolfenstein 3D was released for MS-DOS. The game,
Wow.
amazing, seminal first-person shooter.
So everyone go play all those games tonight.
Yes.
Yep, that's your homework.
Every
And
May
we'll
5th.
and we'll discuss them all right here tomorrow on News, Games, and More. Thank you to everyone for hanging out with us today. We'll be back same time tomorrow, same channel. Thank you, Stella. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Jonathan. Everybody have a great night. See you tomorrow.